way I do it is I usually just ask, the coaches about their playing career real quickly, sum it up, then get into your coaching career. So you played at Boston University from 85 to 89, went to attorney. How was that whole experience?
Well, Nate, much like yourself, I was a walk-on.
Yep.
I went to Boston University. Was blessed to get admitted academically, and
Mm-hmm.
I tried out for the team my first year. Coach Jarvis gave me an opportunity. Was fortunate throughout my career there. We had some injuries, I should say. I wasn't, I'm not wishing that, but we had some injuries that occurred, and I was actually thrust into an opportunity to play early on, and he gave me a chance to play, and I got a scholarship, and obviously, I wasn't a great player. I was just a guy that could defend and did whatever the coach needed me to do, point guard, facilitator, so on. But yeah, so I played at Boston University for Coach Jarvis. From there, I went into prep school, coaching, and then obviously kind of been at every level since then.
Yeah. Who did you guys play in the tourney when you went in '88?
So we played Duke. We were the, if I remember right, we were the 15 or 16 seed. I think we were the 15. And we played Duke, and that was the first year the Dean Dome had actually opened. And so, obviously where Carolina plays, the NCAA region of the site was in North Carolina at the Dean Dome. It was brand new. So yeah, we played Duke. They beat us. It was actually a closer game than the final score indicated. They had, if I remember right, they had Quinn Snyder, Ricky was one of their, talented players. And I kind of forget some of the other guys, but yeah, that was quite an experience.
Nice. So during college, did you, I know you coached high school right away after college. Did you know you always wanted to coach?
You know what? I didn't really know. I kind of got into this by a little bit of by chance. I went to I had a younger sibling, and he wanted to get into prep school, and I kind of went down to the prep school, to help out that year as he was going to be a post-grad. It was Milford Academy in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And, I went down there to teach, to get my feet wet into teaching and to see kind of where I was going. But they needed a basketball coach at the time. They were just kind of trying to resurrect the program.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started there and really fell in love with coaching at that point. And so did not expect to get into it, but that was kind of the start for me.
Wow, a lot of people. I mean, it just happens to them. That's crazy. So you go from high school. Were you coach? So this was a prep school.
Yeah. So Milford Academy, which is at the time was in Milford, Connecticut. Okay. Now they moved the school to upstate New York, and it's actually more of a football school now. But they had great football back then. And that's what my younger brother was playing football, and I kind of went there
for
a year and kind of watched him a little bit at the same time, got my, my feet wet into coaching. So yeah, but that was a prep school. We were, at that time we had mostly football players the first year because we really didn't recruit. But that second, third year, you actually were recruiting as if the prep schools as you know it today.
So the prep school stuff was kind of getting crazy at the time you were in there.
There wasn't as many. We had the Fork Union Military Academies. Hargrave was, just starting.
Mm-hmm.
Maine Central Institute was the dominant prep school at that time. St. Thomas More and Worcester Academy were pretty much, the major preps at that time. Again, there wasn't, the amount of prep schools that there are today.
Yeah, no doubt. It's crazy now, as you know. So your first D1 job was Wyoming. How did you kind of land that, and how was that experience?
Interesting story, Nate. I was a prep school coach at the time so I left Milford. I went to the Winchendon School, and, I kind of sat down with the headmaster there at the time, Bill LaBelle, and I was running these summer basketball clinics throughout New England. And we actually had a location at the Winchendon School. They had built this brand new facility, basketball gym with 2 side full courts, really nice. And I went there, and I actually was running the camp, and I met him. And I asked him, would you be willing to start a prep basketball program here? You've got, all the facilities, great school academically, and you get all the, the things that you would need to get started. And he kind of was reluctant at that point. This was my second year at Milford Academy. So I went back to Milford my third year, and I just kind of called him that spring and said, hey, I'd like to kind of revisit that conversation we had if you're interested. I didn't, I figured he was probably going to say no, but he said, you know what? We actually been thinking about it. Come on down. And so I went to Winchendon. We started that program from scratch, and I met a lot of coaches along the way. And much like yourself, that network that was established at that young age, got me my first opportunity. I met Joe B. Wright at the time, who was the head coach at the University of Wyoming. He came out on a recruiting trip. I think it was my first year at the Winchendon School, and he was recruiting one of my players, Melvin Watson, who didn't go to school there, by the way. He went to the University of South Carolina, had a great career. And I kept in touch with a lot of the coaches that were there. And so there was a job opening. It was in my third year at Winchendon, and I just called out there and asked him if, he would consider me. And he called me back, and, next thing you know, I was on a plane and, accepted the position and so on and so forth.
Wow. So you talk about that, that network you had, was it, and then you got that eventually led you to the job, the D1 job. What do you think, like, the difference is these days? Like, is there just more people, trying to do it? Like, how was it then versus now, like, in regards to trying to get in?
When I first started, Nate, again, I kind of didn't really know the business, didn't really understand the profession. Although I played, I didn't understand the networking obviously was very, very important back then. Yeah. And, there was a time when we first started, the whole key in this profession was getting an opportunity, getting a chance, working your way up by helping, coaches win at different places, staying loyal, and you would eventually get your own job someday. Unfortunately, as this profession, the way it's now, the way the landscape is now, there's a lot more that goes into that. There's obviously search firm components to it. There's a lot of many AAU programs now with sneaker affiliations. And so, the business has really changed. And again, a lot of that has to do with, I'm sure, the stakes have gotten a lot higher, salaries and everything else. So for me, I got in it that way. I don't think there's an exact science, Nate, really. I don't think it's just about, you working very, very hard and trying to do the best job you can do wherever you're at. At the same time, continuing to network, maybe working different camps and clinics, or, going to other AAU teams, and having faith in God that he's going to kind of direct you and put you on that path.
Yeah, no doubt. And I was kind of going to start doing that camp route this obviously last summer with all the, Corona stuff. So I was looking forward to that, but, unfortunately, I guess this led me to doing this kind of stuff. Okay. So I see you were a scout for the Sixers, right? So you went from Wyoming, American, and then that year as a scout. How did you kind of, come about that job? That's interesting.
Well, you know what? I kind of wanted to get into the pro game at one point. And, I gave the college, game, obviously Wyoming, American University. And, at that point, I was kind of unsure where I wanted to go. And, I had an opportunity just to do some regional scouting. It wasn't, a very detailed position, except I was doing a lot of New England scouting at colleges in the area, and getting my feet wet there. And, it so happened that, I had an opportunity to work in the minor leagues from there in Cincinnati in the IBL. I don't know if you're familiar with the IBL.
I saw that.
Yeah, well, way back when, the IBL was a league that was George Blaney started, and it was designed to keep a lot of the kids who weren't necessarily going to the NBA and put them in almost like what the G League is today. It was a very, very competitive league.
Interesting.
And so I got an opportunity to work in that setting also with the pro game. But, again, the pro game, taught me a lot. Tony DeLeo was the director of player personnel with the Sixers, and he actually really kind of taught me a lot about the evaluation process. Couldn't write any type of evaluation until you saw a prospect 3 times, and
Mm-hmm.
he kind of helped me a little bit on that path. And then obviously working in the minor leagues, I learned the basketball game from a different spectrum, and that is, the pro game. There's no academics, and it was really
Right.
more about teaching you about matchups. I mean, a lot of the pro game is about matchups, as opposed to just running offensive sets to run them,
Mm-hmm.
and spacing, and it taught me quite a bit about the game of basketball, which I had never been exposed to, by being a prep school, high school, and college assistant. So that was a great opportunity for me to learn.
Yeah, very nice. Interesting. So one more question about like your early, like that prep time. Well, I guess you've been recruiting for a while now, so it doesn't really even so back in the day, like not back in the day, but 20 years ago, there obviously weren't like circuits, right? What was kind of like, I know there was the 5-star camps and like the ABC or D or whatever it was called. Like, was it kind of like, back then, that kind of stuff? Is that just like a older, like a type of circuit we have now? You know what I mean? Like, is that, and then evolved to now is kind of just what it is?
Well, first of all, I think again, the social media has changed everything.
Yes, no doubt about that.
There wasn't as much as it relates to the social media side of it. So recruiting, was a little bit different. I remember working the first annual NBA Players Association camp. It was held on Princeton's campus,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a camp that basically had a combination of NBA players with mostly high school, prep school, some AAU coaches that were working the camp. And, it was, we had the best of the best there. I mean, I remember my team that I was involved with coaching. I had Kobe Bryant,
Wow.
you had Jermaine O'Neal. I remember Lamar Odom being there. I mean, so, a lot of the kids that went and attended the camp, there wasn't so many different camps that there was only a few kids there. Every good player was there, or most every good player, I should say.
Yeah.
And so I remember working that. But yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, AAU teams, there weren't as many. I mean, there was a little bit more of a condensed, regional AAU type setting where you had maybe one or two teams, New England or Boston. Chicago had their teams, Mac Urban Phi. I mean, it was so, but I think the AAU circuit has grown, so much. And a lot of it has to do with the sneaker affiliation over years, and combine that with social media. I mean, there's just an enormous, recruiting circuit that's out there between AAU tournaments, clinics, camps, and so on, showcases and everything else.
Mm-hmm. So there was just like less camps, and then I guess the 1 or 2 was more important, to kind of show out at, I guess. That's cool though. Okay, so you go Loyola, Chicago, Nebraska, Wichita State, Texas A&M, all schools I've been following since I was a kid. That's, I think that's really cool. Can you kind of just give a rundown of each of those schools and how things went there?
Well, again, I actually I started working at Loyola Chicago after the pro experience. And I was there working for Larry Farmer, and, excellent coach, very, very, good person. And at the time, he had an agent a coaching agent that was representing him. And that same agent was representing Barry Collier, who was the head coach at Nebraska. Barry is now the athletic director at Butler. And he was kind of the pioneer behind the Butler, program taking off like it did. And so his agent, Larry Farmer's agent, had said, look, I would like to present Scott, to Coach Collier. He has some recruiting ties, and at Nebraska, he's trying to really get himself, their basketball program back to, attracting even a higher caliber player. And so he made the introduction. Larry Farmer allowed me to go, and I met, Barry on an interview at Nebraska. And that's how I got going with Coach Collier. I worked there for 3 years. While I was there, through some of these, like you mentioned, these coaching clinics, I went to a retreat down at the University of Memphis that Larry Brown, through the 76ers and John Calipari were running. And I developed a good relationship with Mark Turgeon, at that coach's clinic. And from there, I worked for him at 3 different places for 7 years, had a lot of success, finished, a runner-up on, a few head coaching jobs there, just didn't catch that break. But, we had a lot of success together. And then from there, I had an opportunity to come back here to Boston College. And, it's home. And, and so, it was an opportunity for my family and I to kind of, after being, with one coach for 7 years to kind of, maybe try to take a different path here on the ultimate goal of trying to get your own program.
Right. Okay. So you got Texas A&M, NCAA tourney all 4 years. First, I'm kind of curious. I love the NCAA tournament, everything about it. Who did you guys play when you were over at A&M in the NCAAs?
So we had the best 4-year win total in Texas A&M history. We had a tremendous run there. Our first year in the tournament, we played. We went out to California, to the Staples Center, I believe. It's the Toyota Center. It's whatever. Which one is in Anaheim, LA.
Okay. Yep.
And we played out there, Staples Center, and at the time, and we played BYU our opening game there. It was I want to say it was either the 7-10 or the 8-9. It might have been the 8-9 game. And,
was that Jimmer days?
Yeah, that was Jimmer was a freshman. He was. They were good. I mean, they had Lee Kumad, who was, I think, player of the year in that league. Trent Playstead, who was a really good player. I remember the kid Tabanari. And I remember very well. I had to scout that game. And we played BYU in the opening round. We beat them in a very highly contested, excellent game. I think it was ended up winning by 3, 4, or 5 points. And then the second round, we played UCLA then, and they had a really good team. They had, Collison, Kevin Love.
Oh, wow.
Mabute, excuse my.
They have Westbrook?
They had Westbrook also. They were really good. And we actually pretty much carried the lead most of the game. And, they ended up beating us in it was a tough, hard-nosed game. I think the final score was like 53 or 51 to 49. It was a very low-scoring game. And we were really good too. We really got after it defensively. We had DeAndre Jordan at that time, he was there for 1 year, but we had a really good team also. So that was our first experience. And then we played, BYU the following year again, which is probably never been done. What would you think of A&M and BYU again playing back-to-back years, first round of the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
And we played them, and then we beat them out in Philadelphia in that first round game. We actually beat them really badly. We put it to them, and that was when Jimmer was there. And then the second round, we lost. We actually got beat pretty badly by UConn when they had. God, I forget some of their, big name guys, but they had a really good team and beat us the second round there. And then our third year at A&M, we went on to, we played out in Spokane. And this is, we had Chris Middleton. We, starting to get our own guys there too. And we beat Utah State in the opening round there, pretty badly. And in the second round, we played Purdue. And we lost in overtime. And again, I think it was a 2-point game and to go to the Sweet 16. So those were our first 3 years. We advanced. Last year, we lost to Florida State in the opening round. Actually, it was a second round game. I think that was the year they changed the plan. Remember the first round? And, called the second round, which was really our opening game, but we lost to Florida State. But we had a great 4-year run there, and again, it was just an unbelievable experience in terms of the high level of winning and getting acclimated to what it takes to be successful at the highest level.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a lot of wins. Okay, so my two. Okay, so I'm from Wisconsin. Grew up going to the Kohl Center. What are some memories you can share about playing the Badgers? That's the first question, and then secondly, have you ever faced Winthrop?
It's so funny. I've never faced either team,
Really?
Wisconsin included. Yeah, we never played Wisconsin. Never met up in all the years I've been in, in the coaching side. Even at Nebraska, Wichita, never played them. And as far as Winthrop's concerned, I'd have to think back to if we played Winthrop. I don't know if we played Winthrop.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to look.
Yeah.
I'd have to kind of look back, but I don't. I do know Winthrop's basketball program, and I know it's a sleeping giant down there. I mean, everybody who's been down there has had great success. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think Greg Marshall was there, wasn't he, for a while?
Yep. He's a legend here. I mean, he was.
Yeah, he had great success there, and I know the coach that's there now. Obviously he's Pat.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job too. So yeah,
Kelsey. Yeah.
Pat Kelsey, very, very good job. And, they've got a great basketball tradition down there.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I had him. He was always messing around with me because he saw that I got all these coaches on, and he was like, when's my invite? And I was like, you're gonna get on, but I had him on the other day, so that was cool.
That's awesome.
All right, so then a couple more questions for you. I don't want to take too much of your time. So you've recruited obviously a bunch of NBA guys. I read, Chris Middleton, DeAndre, Alex Len, Layman, Jerome, Robinson, Kai Bowman. Kind of talk about like where you found those guys and just your relationship with them throughout the whole their careers.
I think one of the things, first of all, as you get a little older, you start, learning a lot through the mistakes you made over the years. I think for any younger coach who's starting, the one thing I do know is sometimes you're going to make mistakes, especially in the evaluation process. Mm-hmm. My mistakes that I made, and I look back and I learned quite a bit from them, was really evaluating players based on their statistics. And, even as a prep school head coach, I was putting a team together based on guys and what their points per game were, what their, their overall statistics, as opposed to, what I believe to be very important is to see past those statistics and, how a high school coach or how a prep school coach or AU coach is utilizing that player. Not every player has the same defined role, even at whether it's junior high, high school, AAU. Yeah. And so trying to see past that has been something that I think over the years I've learned quite a bit. Also give credit and thanks to God. I mean, finding some of these guys along the way and having an opportunity to, be involved with them as a coach and being in their lives has been incredible. So, but, finding those kids, each one of them has their own story in itself. Chris Middleton, a kid from South Carolina, went to a private, school, Port of God High School, kind of a soft-spoken kid. Mm-hmm. And we actually saw him at an AAU tournament. I saw him at the King James tournament in Akron, Ohio for the first time. I was with, at the time, Orlando Ranson-Bino, who's actually now an assistant at Maryland, and he was kind of telling me, hey, I'm going to go watch this game. Come on over and see the Carolina Celtics play this game. And I was at A&M, and I was like, I didn't have a game slotted. So I kind of went over there just by chance, and my eyes kind of, focused in on Chris Middleton. And that's how we got going with Chris. With Jake Layman, Jake was a local kid out here at King Philip High School in Massachusetts, and another kid that didn't start for his AAU team. He played for BABC. I started recruiting him at Texas A&M, and then we got the Maryland job. We signed him there, and so on and so forth. We could go through this process, but in each case, honestly, Nate, it's finding these guys and having an opportunity to get in front of them, has been a blessing. And at the same time, look, there is no exact science. You gotta go out. You can't worry about who's ranked where and who tells you what. You got to go out there and you got to evaluate these kids on your own and do the work. And at the same time, you got to try to see past not just statistics, how that coach is using that individual player and how that player could fit into the system or what the role you're looking for him to play at your school.
Interesting. Okay, so when you were at Maryland from 2011 to 14, that's when you guys were in the ACC, right?
Yes. Yep.
So how was just that whole experience playing in arguably the best conference in America?
Well, when we went to we left Texas A&M, it was funny because the first couple of weeks on the job, I had been with Coach Turgeon for a long time, Turge, and he said, "Look, we're gonna be judged here on how quickly we can get this program back. So it's important that you start looking at Duke and you start looking at Virginia and start thinking about where their programs are, start scouting them and try to figure out, what it's going to take to beat them in terms of players, their systems, and so on." So coming from the Big 12, it was a lot different. The Big 12 at that time, again, the leagues have been restructured, but it was a very smash mouth defensive, physical, really, get after you type league.
Yeah.
The only team in that league that played at a really high pace was Missouri, who Mike Anderson was there at the time. But for most of us, it was really, we got after it defensively. Coming to the ACC, the speed of the game, the skill set of the players and how it was played changed our recruiting, quite a bit, over the time we were there. And so I think there was a huge, difference in leagues at the time, as opposed to Big 12 to ACC. So, again, being at Maryland, it's special place, big time atmosphere, tremendous support. It's a basketball school. And, we built that program, Jake Lehman, Seth Allen, some of the kids that Des Wells we had when we first got that thing going. We had some success. We won 25 games our second year. We actually beat Duke twice that year, and we got to the NIT Final Four. But, we resurrected that program, and, Coach Williams obviously took it to a national title. They had a couple of years that were kind of down in between, but, we built it right back up again through recruiting. And then the opportunity came here to come back to Boston College. And, again, kind of, coming back home was kind of a no-brainer, and to kind of reinvent myself a little bit too after working 7 years together, at 3 different places with Turge. It was probably good, to kind of get some other ideas and be fresh again,
Yeah, no doubt. Like we talked about earlier, you got some mass rivals guys over there at Boston College, Makai Ashton Langford, DeMar Langford, and Vanderbaan. How are those guys looking early?
Very well. They look sharp. I mean, first of all, talking about Makai, Makai was a highly touted kid, as you know, Nate, coming out of high school at AAU. And he was a kid that, I think along the way, he might have lost a little bit of his mojo, confidence, swagger. And he's actually, through the redshirt year, working out a lot this summer, I'm sure, with his dad and his brother. He's really, playing back to the Makai Langford of that ranking. He's really playing well on both ends of the floor right now. For us, his younger brother, is just a man-child. He's physically very, very talented. Kid that is very versatile. It's kind of got a rare ability to play, fast, but also, a great passer, whether it's, in front of him, behind him. He has a rare ability, great vision, playing off the dribble, which again is kind of most kids that come into college, everybody's used to having the ball. He plays without the ball. And then when he gets it, he drives it, and he can really pass. So he's a kid that's going to have a tremendous career here at Boston College. Justin Vanderbaum is a legit 7-footer, very skilled. He's shooting threes for us right now. The only thing right now with him is just he's got to get physically stronger, but he loves basketball. He's got a tremendous passion for the game. Once he bulks up physically, with his skill set and his love and skill and savvy for the game, he's going to be another kid here that's going to have a great career. So all of them are doing exceptionally well. We've been thankful for, the rivals, Vinny, for, again, allowing us to recruit his kids. And, I think he's got a tremendous program, as we all know.
Yep.
And, and we've been blessed to get some of those guys and hopefully some more moving forward.
Absolutely. All right. I really, really appreciate you for giving me some of your time and love the stuff you just, talked about with me. It was awesome.
Nate, I really appreciate your time and anything we can do up here. Like I said, I wish you the best. Hopefully we can stay in touch together, you and I. Okay.
Yes, Coach. All right. Good luck this year. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, you too, Nate. Stay healthy down there, okay? With Coach.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
You too.
Bye, Nate.